Ray Gricar was a prosecutor from Cleveland, Ohio that specialized in prosecuting cases of rape and murder. He served in office from 1985 to 2005, becoming the Center County District Attorney. In May of 1996, Ray's older brother Roy disappeared from his Westchester, Ohio home, and his body would be found a week later in the Great Miami River. His death was ruled a suicide. Less than 10 years later, on April 15th of 2005, the same fate would seem to befall Ray. While driving home to his Belafonte home he shared with his girlfriend Patty Fornicola, he called her to inform he was driving through the Brush Valley area northeast of Center Hall, and that he would return home shortly. He never arrived, and later that evening, Patty Fornicola reported him missing. The next day, Ray's Mini Cooper was found in the parking lot of an antique store in Lewisburg, and inside was his county-issued cell phone, but his laptop, keys, and wallet were missing. Ray's family noted the similarities of where Ray's car was found to that of his older brother's a decade earlier, as it sat adjacent to two bridges over the Susquehanna River. Authorities searched the river, but no signs of Ray were found, and they noted that the sniffer dog's behavior around Ray's car suggested he may have gotten into a vehicle with someone else. On July 30th, divers located Ray's county-issued laptop in the Susquehanna River beneath a bridge between Milton and Lewisburg, but its hard drive was missing. 2 months later, a hard drive was discovered on the banks of the Susquehanna River, about 100 yards from the location of the laptop, and police hypothesized it was Ray's. But it was too damaged for any data to be recovered from it. In April 2009, it was revealed that someone at the home Ray shared with Fornicola had searched the phrases, "how to wreck a hard drive," "how to fry a hard drive," and "water damage to a notebook computer." It is not known what became of Ray Gricar, but the three prominent theories are suicide, foul play, or him leaving to start a new life. He was declared dead in absentia on July 25, 2011, but his case remains open.
On June 6th of 1992, Susie Streeter and Stacy McCall graduated high school. In the early hours of the next day at around 2 a.m., they were last seen leaving a graduation party and heading towards a friend's home to stay the night. They instead decided that the house was too crowded and made their way back to Susie's place. This was the last known location of the pair, as well as Susie's mom, Cheryl Levitt. The next day, when friends couldn't get in touch with the girls, who were supposed to go to the water park with them, the friends showed up at Susie's home. Upon their first arrival, they noticed broken glass on the porch, and no one answered the door, prompting them to leave. A few hours later, they returned and knocked again, and this time when no one answered, they tried to open the door and realized that it was unlocked. They looked through the home and checked messages on the answering machine for clues. But during their search, aside from finding the dog locked in the bathroom, they were unable to find any answers to their whereabouts. But during their search, it is reported that they received 2 phone calls, both of an obscene nature, including sexual and perverse innuendos. Several hours later, Stacy's mom, Janice, also visited the home after failing to reach her daughter by phone. Once inside, she noticed that all 3 of their purses were sitting on the floor of the living room, and no personal belongings appeared to have been removed from the home. She also noticed her daughter's clothing neatly folded in a pile from the night before. Suspecting foul play, Janice frantically called police from the home's telephone to report that the 3 women were missing, and after placing the call while checking the phone's answering machine, she listened to a strange message, but accidentally deleted it from the tape. Police were very interested in the call and believed that it may have contained clues, though strangely they also believed it wasn't related to the previous prank calls that their friends had received. The investigators never stood a chance on this case. From beginning to end, there have been little clues into what happened to these 3 missing women. By all accounts, the only sign of struggle was the broken glass from a lamp cover on the porch, which could have been key evidence, except that it was swept up and thrown away by the friends who had visited earlier. Further inadvertent evidence tampering was caused by several people who entered the home, which by all accounts is anywhere from 6 to 20 people, and the only message on the answering machine was deleted by Stacy's mom. There have been several suspects in the case, but all of them have had alibis or their stories are incredible. Despite Susie and Janice being declared legally dead, the case still receives hundreds of tips each year. But for now, we still don't know how they disappeared.
Samantha Ware was an 18-year-old girl who moved out of her parents' home 2 or 3 days shy of her birthday and moved to California. In September of 2005, her mother, Mary Ware, received a call from Samantha's boyfriend that she had run off after they had gotten into a fight at a local movie theater. That would be the last news Mary would hear of her daughter for 19 long months, until she and the Doe Network, a missing unidentified persons group, found her daughter's picture online and connected her to Jane Doe 1705 in San Bernardino County, California. The poor girl had attempted to run across the highway and was struck by several cars shortly after running from the movie theater. She died that night, but had no identification on her, and she remained identified for those 19 months. While devastated, Mary Ware said finally knowing what had happened to her daughter was the first comfort she had received in those 19 long months.
Brandi Lynn Hall's disappearance is something that perhaps would have never happened if only the events had taken place 10 years later. Just before her disappearance on August 17th, 2006, both her husband and his friend were arrested and charged for an illegal marijuana grow operation. Despite also being indicted, most of Brandi's charges were dropped, except for commercial littering and pollution. Brandi had worked for almost a decade as a firefighter, but because of her charges and other allegations, she lost her job. Due to the financial hardship of the case and loss of employment, Brandi was actively looking for another job, even on the day that she disappeared. While searching, she never stopped being a resource to her community and continued working as a volunteer firefighter for another department. But Brandi also had a secret. She was having an affair with the married fire captain at the time of her disappearance. At 10:45 p.m. on the night she went missing, she had left the department early, citing she needed to return home. At 11:06 p.m., her and the captain she was having an affair with had a phone call lasting just over 10 minutes. This is also the last time that anyone spoke with her. The next day, her truck was found submerged in a pond in Palm Bay. A substantial amount of Brandi's blood was found within the cab, although there was not enough to prove that she was dead. An extensive search of the pond turned up no sign of Brandi's remains, and authorities do not believe they are there. Neither her husband nor the captain claimed to know why or how she went missing, and authorities do not believe her disappearance is related to her husband's illegal marijuana operation. Over the last 14 years, police have conducted extensive searches for Brandi. They've searched and drained the pond looking for answers, and even have consulted the help of psychics. Although more of her personal belongings have been found throughout the pond and inlets, the police are no closer to answering how Brandi disappeared.
32-year-old Patty Vaughan disappeared from Lavernia, Texas on Christmas of 1996. Her husband, Jerry Ray Vaughan, also known as JR, stated they had gotten into a fight and Patty had simply left the house between 6 and 8 p.m. and vanished. But Patty's family members weren't convinced, noting Patty and JR had began a trial separation in October of 1996, and JR had moved out of their Oak Park Road home to an apartment in San Antonio, Texas. And Patty had begun dating a former boyfriend again that December. JR had found out about the relationship just a couple of weeks earlier on December 13th. The next day, Patty's light blue 1991 Dodge Caravan was discovered with what was determined to be an intentionally flattened tire, 15 miles from her home and 5 miles from her work. Inside the van was a pile of men's work clothes, including a jumpsuit with the JM emblem on the back. Patty's blood was found inside the van also. Someone had attempted to clean it, shampooing the carpet, which was still wet. A search of the home then found blood on the walls and floor of Patty's bedroom, as well as on a mop. DNA testing revealed the blood to be Patty's. Patty's mother, Patsy Wallace, was charged with burglarizing JR's residence and assaulting him with a baseball bat in February of 1997, accusing him of being responsible for her daughter's disappearance. JR currently resides in Colorado with the 3 children he had with Patty and maintains his innocence, claiming she simply left him. Authorities aren't convinced and note his unusual behavior on top of all the blood found, as JR filed for divorce the day after Patty disappeared. A few months after Patty's disappearance, the foundation of a school JR had helped build was examined, as well as behind the school gymnasium. In December of 2008, police announced they may be close to solving the case, having identified 3 friends of JR's that may have helped dispose of Patty's body. Although foul play is suspected, as of today there have been no arrests made in the disappearance of Patty Vaughan, and her case remains open.